Shirley Caesar's story is one of love, loss, faith, and endless strength. In 1983, she married the man she deeply loved, Bishop Harold Ivory Williams. 4 years, they were partners in both life and ministry. But after 31 years together, her world fell apart when he passed away. The pain of losing him was unbearable, and what followed made her grief even heavier. Her stepchildren turned against her, starting a painful and bitter battle over his estate. The woman who had given away most of her wealth to help others now found herself surrounded by conflict and lies. People spread fake stories online claiming she had died. Even some of her own siblings accused her of using their mother's pain to build her fame. The person who had always preached love, faith, and kindness was now fighting to keep her own peace. Shirley's greatest tragedy wasn't losing her voice, it was losing the people she loved most. Shirley Caesar was born on October 13, 1938, in Durham, North Carolina. She was the 10th of 13 children in a poor family. Her father, James Caesar, worked long hours at a tobacco factory but still found time to sing on weekends with his gospel group, the Just Come Four. He had a beautiful, deep voice that filled the neighborhood with music. But no matter how hard he worked, the family was always struggling to make ends meet. 13 children meant more mouths to feed than money could cover. Her mother, Hi, was partly disabled and often in pain, but she never gave up. She somehow managed to stretch what little food they had to feed everyone. Shirley learned early that survival wasn't about comfort, it was about sacrifice and strength. When Shirley was just 7 years old, her life changed forever. One day in 1945, her father suddenly collapsed from a brain seizure and died right in front of her. That moment ended her childhood. Her family had lost not only a father but their only steady source of income. 13 children and a disabled mother were left behind with almost nothing. At only 7 years old, Shirley decided she would help support her family. She began singing in churches to earn money. There was no time for her to mourn or be a child. Singing became her job, her way of survival. Her voice wasn't just a gift, it was her family's lifeline. By the age of 10, Shirley was already known across local churches for her powerful alto voice. People called her Baby Shirley. She was so small that she had to stand on boxes just to be seen by the audience, but when she opened her mouth to sing, her sound shook the room. Even grown men were moved to tears. At 14, she was traveling alone through the segregated South, performing wherever she could. She would sleep in bus stations, clutching a cherry Coke and a hamburger her mother had packed. Many times, preachers would underpay her, giving her 50 cents for a week's work while they made hundreds. But Shirley didn't stop. She kept singing with fire in her soul, filling churches with her voice, using every performance to push through her pain. Her mother's health continued to get worse. By age 12, Hi's leg was paralyzed, and she could barely walk. Shirley became her full-time caregiver while still performing to keep food on the table. She took care of her mother for more than 30 years. Even after she became famous, she never hired anyone to help. She did everything herself. Her mother's suffering became the fuel that kept her going. After finishing high school in 1956, Shirley attended college to study business. But one day, while taking a typing test, she heard a voice calling her name. It wasn't her classmate. The voice came again, louder this time, saying, "Behold, I have called you from your mother's womb, and I have anointed your lips to preach the gospel." That message shook her deeply. She dropped out of college immediately, knowing that her true calling wasn't in business but in serving God through song. At 19, in 1958, Shirley joined the Caravans, one of the most popular gospel groups in the country. She boldly told their leader, Albertina Walker, that she could sing all the parts, and she proved it. Her performances were electric. She didn't just sing, she moved, danced, cried, and poured her soul into every note. She broke the rules of traditional gospel performances. During her first recording session, sound engineers couldn't believe the strength in her voice. The Caravans quickly became famous, selling over 50,000 records that same year. But behind the success, Shirley was still struggling. She often went hungry and slept on buses between shows. She had recorded her first song, I'd Rather Have Jesus, years earlier when she was only 13, but record companies rejected it. They said she was too young to sing about pain. She sold the song herself, performing in small churches and barns across the Carolinas with a one-legged preacher. The record barely sold 1,000 copies, but she refused to quit. For 8 long years, from 1958 to 1966, Shirley toured with the Caravans across the Deep South. They performed hundreds of shows every year, often in segregated towns. While white gospel groups made up to $800 per show, the Caravans were paid just $150. They were turned away from hotels and had to sleep on buses. In Birmingham, Alabama, they were refused rooms at 17 hotels. In Mississippi, police attacked black audiences with hoses, and in Montgomery, bottles were thrown at them during performances. Shirley turned those experiences into songs. Her music became a voice for the civil rights movement, a coded message of strength and hope. By 1966, Shirley had grown tired of being underpaid and overlooked. She wanted more creative freedom and fair pay. When Albertina refused her request, Shirley walked away from the Caravans. Everyone warned her not to go solo, but she trusted her calling. She signed a $50,000 contract with Hob Records, becoming the first black female gospel artist to receive such a deal. Her first solo album, My Testimony, released in 1967, sold 15,000 copies. It was raw and emotional, filled with songs about pain, poverty, and faith. Some critics said it wasn't Christian enough, but Shirley didn't care. She sang from her heart, and people listened. In 1969, she performed with Reverend James Cleveland in a live church service that became one of the most powerful gospel recordings ever made. Even so, she still faced discrimination. She earned far less than male artists, and producers tried to control her creativity. She kept going anyway. Her strength paid off when she won her first Grammy in 1971 after being cheated out of one 2 years earlier. The voting system had been rigged, and it took decades for the truth to come out. That same year, Shirley appeared on The Mike Douglas Show, bringing fiery gospel music to national television. Her performance was unforgettable, so powerful that CBS received thousands of phone calls in hours. For many white viewers, it was their first time witnessing black gospel worship, and it left them stunned. In 1972, Shirley won her first Grammy for her version of Put Your Hand in the Hand of the Man from Galilee. It made her one of the first gospel artists to break into mainstream music. Critics were divided. Some said she was making gospel sound too much like pop, but Shirley stood firm. She said her purpose was still to sing for God, no matter the style. Her success continued to grow. In 1975, she went on tour in West Africa, where over 250,000 people came to hear her sing. Many had walked for days without food just to attend. The poverty she saw broke her heart. She began praying on stage, asking God to help those people. When the tour ended, she returned home with a new mission to fight hunger and suffering around the world. That same compassion led her to create the Shirley Caesar Outreach Ministries in 1969. She was inspired after seeing a news report about starving children in Tennessee. From then on, she donated half of her concert earnings to food and shelter programs. Sometimes she borrowed money just to keep the programs running, but she never gave up. She refused government funding because she believed her work should come from her own blessings. In the late 1970s, Shirley shocked the gospel world again by blending gospel with funk and R&B on her 1978 album Message for the People. Many pastors criticized her, but the public loved it. The album sold over 1 million copies, making her one of the best-selling gospel artists of the decade. In 1983, she married Bishop Harold Ivory Williams. Their wedding was beautiful and full of meaning. Her ring had 9 diamonds, one for each spiritual gift. Together, they led a church in Raleigh with 2,500 members, balancing ministry and music. That same year, Shirley almost lost her life when her tour bus skidded on ice. She was knocked unconscious and later said she saw a glimpse of heaven before being revived by paramedics. That near-death experience inspired her to write Jesus, I Love Calling Your Name, which became one of the most requested gospel songs for funerals in America. Through the 1980s, Shirley continued to make history. She won multiple Grammys and became one of the most respected gospel voices in the world. But fame didn't change her heart. She used her platform to help others, even during times when fear divided the country. In 1985, when most churches refused to support people with AIDS, Shirley opened her church doors to them. She arranged hospital visits, home care, and funerals for those who had nowhere else to go. Many criticized her, saying she was breaking church tradition, but Shirley stood firm. She believed that faith meant compassion, not judgment. Her life was filled with challenges, but through every hardship, losing her father, raising her siblings, facing racism, fighting for respect, surviving near death, and losing her husband, Shirley Caesar never stopped believing in the power of love, music, and faith. She gave away nearly everything she earned to help others, but her greatest gift was her spirit. The woman who once sang to feed her family grew into a legend whose voice fed the souls of millions. Yet behind all her success was a woman who simply wanted peace, who learned that sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought on stage or in public, but in the quiet of one's own heart. Shirley Caesar's story is a reminder that strength doesn't come from never breaking, it comes from breaking and still choosing to stand again. Shirley Caesar always believed in kindness and love, especially in the love of Jesus. Between 1985 and 1989, she quietly helped more than 200 families without ever talking about it publicly. She didn't look for attention or praise. She simply did what she felt was right. By 1989, she was honored as the Artist of the Decade at the Stellar Awards, a huge moment in her career. But few people knew how close she came to losing everything. After years of non-stop touring, performing as many as 150 shows a year while still preaching, her voice began to fail. Doctors discovered nodules on her vocal cords, and she needed steroid shots just to keep singing. Her famous Live in Chicago album, which helped her win the award, was recorded while she was in terrible pain. When she went on stage to accept the award, her voice was barely audible, but her words touched everyone's heart. Even in weakness, she gave thanks to God. In 1991, she released an album called His Working It Out For You. It had 9 songs and ran for 44 minutes. The album reached #1 on the gospel charts and even entered the R&B charts at number 95, which was rare for a gospel record at that time. Gospel music was changing fast in the early 90s, but Shirley remained its guiding light. Her message was pure, her faith strong, and she never needed to make her songs about herself. She only sang the truth. In 1999, Shirley received one of the greatest honors of her life. The United States government awarded her the National Heritage Fellowship, the highest honor given to traditional artists in America. The award came with a $10,000 prize and a ceremony in Washington, D.C. Shirley didn't use that platform to talk about race or politics. Just her presence was powerful enough. She stood there as a woman who had been singing since she was 12 years old, now recognized by her country for her lifelong devotion to music and faith. In 1996, she performed at the Grammy Awards alongside Whitney Houston and CeCe Winans. Together they sang A City Called Heaven and other gospel songs in a medley that inspired millions. At the time, Whitney Houston was reconnecting with her gospel roots, and Shirley helped her shine on that stage. That same year, Shirley and Whitney also recorded His All Over Me with the Georgia Mass Choir, a collaboration that symbolized unity between generations of gospel artists. Then, in 2016, something completely unexpected happened. A clip from Shirley's 1988 song Hold My Mule suddenly went viral on the internet. A DJ had taken her joyful list of Thanksgiving foods, beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, rams, hogs, dogs, and remixed it into a catchy beat called You Name It Challenge. It spread everywhere. Millions of people watched, laughed, and danced to it. Shirley, who was 78 at the time, was on a cruise when a young church member showed her the viral video. She was shocked and amused, not even fully understanding how it happened. Overnight, she became famous again with a whole new generation. That same year, she released a powerful song with Anthony Hamilton titled It's All Right, It's Okay. For the first time, Shirley openly sang about mental health, depression, and emotional struggles. The lyrics reached people who were going through hard times, reminding them that they were not alone. It was honest, raw, and deeply human. When she performed the song live on Bet's Celebration of Gospel, her performance touched countless hearts. In 2017, Shirley received the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, her 11th Grammy honor. But that same year, cruel rumors began spreading online. Some false reports claimed she had throat cancer or that she was dying. She had to record a video herself to prove that she was healthy. In the video, she joked, "Unless I'm a living dead person, I don't know anything about it." Even though the rumors upset her, she handled everything with grace and humor, asking people not to believe or share lies. Just a few years earlier, on July 4, 2014, while the rest of the country was celebrating Independence Day, Shirley's world shattered. Her husband, Bishop Harold Ivory Williams, passed away at the age of 93. They had been married since June 27, 1983, 31 years of love, faith, and partnership. She was 44 when they married, and he was already a widower. Together they led the Mount Calvary Word of Faith Church, where both preached and made music together. He even played piano and sang on several of her albums, including Stand Still and Shirley Caesar Live. His passing left her heartbroken. Their church, which had 1,500 members, became quiet without his voice. Thousands came to honor him at a 2-day funeral, but for Shirley, the silence afterward was unbearable. Not long after, in 2015, her peaceful world was shaken again, this time by a painful legal battle with her stepchildren, Harold Jr. and Hope. Even though she had helped raise them and loved them like her own, they began to fight over the estate. They argued about church property, personal assets, and Bishop Williams' legacy. The emotional pain was worse than the legal one. The family that once prayed together now felt divided. But family pain was something Shirley knew well. Back in the late 1980s, when her mother, Hannah Caesar, passed away, her life changed forever. Her mother had raised 13 children almost entirely on her own after Shirley's father died when she was just 7. Shirley had always been her mother's caregiver, and they were deeply close. After the funeral, however, painful family disputes erupted. Some of her siblings accused her of using their mother's story to boost her fame. They thought she wasn't sharing her success or the royalties from her tribute album fairly. The tension tore the family apart. Over the years, all 12 of her siblings passed away, leaving Shirley as the only one still alive today. Through it all, Shirley carried another silent burden: she never had biological children. 4 years, she prayed and went to doctors, hoping for a miracle, but it never happened. In 2000, she finally opened up about her infertility. She admitted that it once made her question her faith and left her feeling broken inside. But she found a way to turn that pain into something meaningful. Through her church, she created programs to help couples struggling with infertility, offering emotional and financial support for adoption. She called her stepchildren her miracle children, but the ache of never becoming a mother in the traditional sense never fully disappeared. In 2024, rumors about her death spread all over social media. Fake stories claimed she had died or was hospitalized with throat cancer. She was 85 at the time, alive and well at her home in Raleigh, North Carolina, but people online were already mourning her. Once again, she had to release a video saying, "Unless I'm a living dead person, I don't know anything about it." Strangers even came to her home believing it was a memorial site. Fake obituaries appeared online, and some YouTube channels used edited photos claiming they were her final moments. It was cruel and exhausting. The lies didn't stop there. In early 2025, another fake story appeared online claiming Shirley had collapsed on stage during a concert and was rushed to intensive care. Some news outlets even believed it and shared the story before checking the facts. Fans filled social media with prayers and grief until her team released another video showing her alive and healthy. It was just one more example of how dangerous online rumors could be. Back in 2018, she faced one of the hardest scandals of her life. Someone accused her of stealing $2.3 million from church funds for personal use. The accusation came from a former church treasurer who leaked supposed financial documents. The story spread quickly, hurting her reputation. But after an independent audit by Ernst & Young, it was proven that 98% of all donations were used exactly as intended. In fact, Shirley had personally used her own money to cover expenses when the church struggled. The truth came out, but the emotional toll was heavy. Then, in 2020, more drama came her way. Bloggers and critics began accusing her of stealing famous gospel songs like No Charge and Hold My Mule from lesser-known artists of the 70s and 80s. Some even claimed she copied most of a song by Martha Williams. These claims deeply hurt Shirley, who had built her entire career on honesty and faith. But once again, the truth cleared her name. Every song was either original or legally licensed. Still, the rumors left a mark on her heart. In 2024, another shocking rumor appeared online, a fake will supposedly written by Shirley herself. It claimed she only had $2 million in assets and left out family members while giving property to strange companies. Even worse, a man came forward saying he was her secret son, presenting what looked like letters and legal documents, demanding a DNA test. It was all fake, but it broke Shirley's heart. She warned the public about how social media lies could destroy a person's peace and reputation. Despite everything, the scandals, fake news, and heartbreak, Shirley never stopped serving her church. In 2025, at 86 years old, she still leads Mount Calvary. She doesn't preach every Sunday anymore, but she remains the heart of the congregation. Over 2,000 people attend her services, with many traveling from neighboring states just to hear her speak on special occasions. Her members call it a miracle that her energy and faith are still so strong after all these years. She also continues to mentor younger gospel stars like Yolanda Adams and Kirk Franklin. When Adams was offered a massive $2.3 million deal to sing secular music, Shirley advised her to turn it down, saying that fame wasn't worth losing her spiritual purpose. She gave the same advice to Kirk Franklin when he was offered millions to collaborate with Sean Diddy Combs. Franklin later thanked her publicly, saying, "Save some for the young people," during his Hollywood Walk of Fame speech. Even with all her fame, Shirley has never chased wealth. She has won 11 Grammys and earned an estimated $16 million in her career, yet she gives away nearly 75% of her concert earnings to charity. Each year, she donates over $350,000 to shelters, youth programs, and ministries. She still lives in the same Raleigh home she has owned for over 20 years and runs a small store in Durham, where every bit of profit goes to helping people during the holidays. Experts say she could have been worth more than $40 million if she had saved it all, but Shirley doesn't care about that. What matters most to her is living a life of purpose and faith. After everything she has been through, the loss of her husband, the betrayal from family, false rumors, health struggles, and constant public attention, Shirley Caesar remains a living legend of gospel music and faith. Her story is one of strength, grace, and unshakable belief. Even in pain, she never stopped giving thanks to God. Her voice may have once been weakened, but her spirit never was. And as long as she continues to stand on that church stage, the message she began preaching as a little girl still rings true: Jesus loves everyone.